industrial harbor into a cultural harbor with many statues decorated along the water. And I think Copenhagen city is filled with stories of transformations. On your left-hand side, you can see the National Bank right now. It is this building with black glasses, and it is designed by Arne Jacobsen, a Danish designer. And he is also famous for his Scandinavian signature design of functionalism and simplicity. On your left-hand side again, you can see the Holmens Church, and this is where the Queen herself was Christian and her grandchildren Christian. On your right hand side, the big castle here is the Christiansborg Castle. It used to be the royal residence before they moved to Amalienborg Castle, and nowadays it is the Danish Parliament, Supreme Court, and the Prime Minister's home. And this is actually the third Christiansborg Castle built. Two previous ones burned down. The first one burned down because of chimney fire. The second one burned down because of chimney fire. On your left-hand side is the Stock Exchange, built in the 1600s by King Christian IV, one of the most influential kings in Denmark. He wanted to make Copenhagen a trading center of Europe, so he built this stock exchange. And later on we may be able to see the intertwined dragon tail on top of the stock exchange, and that is to protect the building from harm. And in the 1700s, a few fires broke out in Copenhagen and destroyed many of the city's areas, including the Christiansborg Castle. But the stock trading center, is the only building that was never touched by any fire. So one may say that the dragon tail actually worked. And we are about to drive underneath through the Black Diamond. Black Diamond is the extension of the Royal Library, and its surface is made of black granite from Zimbabwe, so we're driving through underneath it now. It is named the Black Diamond is because if you take a boat onto the canal, and you can see when the sun is reflecting off the water of the black granite, the whole building shines like a black diamond. In the mid-90s, the Royal Library, which the Black Diamond is an extension of, saw one of the biggest thief in expensive books and manuscripts. And it went undetected until the late 90s. And they found out because two books were, they called the thieves because two of the stolen books were put on sale somewhere in England, and they caught the thieves, and they were actually family of a head of the department in the library. And the head of the department died, and then his wives and children became careless in selling those books. So finally, in the beginning of the 2000s, the thieves were caught. I think somewhere more than 20 million kroner worth of books were stolen.
Coral?
Spices.
I don't think so. That's not Siembala. No. Huge coral, the Siembala. But bagi hai small ones.
You may heard of that Denmark is a constitutional monarchy, which means the royal family, they don't express any political views and they have no political power, but they do function as like during ceremonies. And one of the examples is the Queen. Every year at New Year's Eve, 6 o'clock in the evening, she will hold a speech that is broadcasted in television addressing the country, and it is a very moralizing speech, very inspirational. She addresses many of the issues that the country and as a people faces in the world today. And I live in a student dormitory in the center of Copenhagen. About 500 people live there. And during New Year's Eve, people who stay there will usually invite their friends over for party as well. So on New Year's Eve, there will probably be 1,000 people in the dormitory where I live. And they have a big hall on the ground floor. And in the hall, there is a projector set up to broadcast the Queen's speech. And the Queen is more than 80 years old, and the speech is about 10 minutes long. So sometimes she has to raise her glass to drink water. And a tradition here is that in New Year's Eve, people will drink champagne. So all these about 1,000 people partying there will have their champagne in hand. And every time the Queen raises her glass to drink water, we will raise our glass to drink champagne. And we will say a Danish word, skål, and that is cheers. Skål. And that is one of the first words I know since I came to Denmark. On your left-hand side, you can see the central train station. It is this old building here that's built in the beginning of the 1900s. And this is where all the intercity and the regional trains passes through. On your right-hand side, you'll be able to see the Tivoli amusement park. And it is built in the 1800s. Back then, the king at the time, that was before Denmark had a constitution. So the Danish people at the 1800s were protesting and wanting democracy to be introduced into the country. And the king at the time was a bit worried for his rule. So he wanted to build an amusement park. So his logic was, if he kept the people of Copenhagen entertained, then they will forget about their demands for democracy. And the Tivoli Garden, since it's built since the beginning, was a very big success. And people enjoyed it very much. But of course, people did not forget their demand for democracy. And in 1849, the first constitution was made. And if you get your camera ready in the moment, you will see on your right hand side the main gate of Tivoli Garden. And inside the Tivoli Garden you can find beautiful gardens and many amusements. For example, a carousel and a roller coasters. And it has one of the oldest wooden roller coasters from the 1914s. And the special thing about that wooden roller coaster is that the braking mechanism requires a man be in the roller coaster to manually brake it at the end. One of the famous fans of Tivoli Garden is Walt Disney. Walt Disney frequently visited Tivoli Garden, and he copied the atmosphere into his own amusement park.
It means you listen to like food.
Yeah. Yeah, look at this building.
On your left-hand side, you can see the City Hall Square.
Yeah, the same Tivoli is still there.
And you can also see a Hans Christian Andersen statue on your left-hand side, on the side of the road, the man with the tall hat.
Yes.
Hans Christian Andersen was a famous Danish fairy tale writer in the 1800s. But when he was young, he did not want to become a writer. He wanted to become a dancer in the ballet and theater. And he was actually quite successful until he became a teenager. When he hit puberty, his voice broke. He's too tall and too awkward to dance. But instead, he became a great fairy tale writer. And many of his works